Howdy there. So a few days ago, I watched The Borrowers. It's a Studio Ghibli film. It will be coming out in America soon. I think at the end of September. I happened to borrow this bootleg and got to watch it early. A big, huge fan of Hayao Miyazaki, and this is his studio. His studio is Studio Ghibli, and this is their next release. This is the first Studio Ghibli film I've seen that's not a Hayao Miyazaki film. Hayao Miyazaki wrote it, and according to the credit, he planned it. It said planning and written by Hayao Miyazaki. I was wondering if planning maybe meant producing or perhaps storyboarding, because all of the characters look very much like Miyazaki characters. So I don't know what that planning credit really translates to. I will maybe say more producer than anything, but I think it's quite, obvious that he's a producer. It's his studio. Anywho, in a way, it has been touched by greatness, but it is not directed by Miyazaki. I can't remember the name of the director. It's quite a long name. I wanted to say something like Shigami, something like that. It had some Y's in it. It's okay. It's a adaptation of the book, The Borrowers. I think it was a series as well. I read The Borrowers. That's kind of why I was so excited to see this, is because I read The Borrowers. Maybe a couple of them, I can't remember, in the 5th grade. They were actually, at least the first one, was required reading for my 5th grade class. So, I was like, wow, I remember The Borrowers, and now here it is being made into a film by Studio Ghibli, so I thought it was kind of cool. And it's okay. I mean, I don't think my expectations were high a little bit. Long story short, too late, I think I'm going to give it a 6. It's obviously made with, the best talents working in terms of animation. The animation is gorgeous. See, I get a little bit into the quality of the disc. It was, fine. It wasn't like grainy or anything. But I could tell that even a regular DVD would be brighter and crisper. And a Blu-ray, even more so, I guess 6 times more so. But the image quality was still fine. It was a little dull in places, I thought, but still, that doesn't affect story or acting. This is also one thing that maybe goes into my lower than expected rating, is that it's subtitled. It has the original Japanese and has subtitles of your choosing. I've never watched a Miyazaki film with the original Japanese. Namely because when I'm watching an animated film, I like to focus on the movement and the animation and the colors. The shot, where I have to, in this case, focus on the subtitles, get what they're saying, understand, this is well, I don't know if it was made in Thailand or Japan, but it has their kind of version of English, and it's like you gotta. Basically, my complaint is that I had to waste too much attention on the subtitles and figuring out exactly kind of what was said. Not that it, takes a genius, but still, I would rather spend time looking at every corner of the screen. The voice acting was fine. I'll probably see this again, just to be fair, I think. Disney always handles the Studio Ghibli films over here, and they always do an outstanding voice cast. So I, am looking forward to some of America's top talents putting their voices in here, and hearing that and being able to, again, focus on the animation. And the animation, of course, is beautiful. Again, it looks like a Miyazaki film. All the characters look very, Miyazaki-esque. And there are brief moments in Miyazaki films in terms of movement. There's always some segments where I really have a tough time describing it, but it seems that everything in the picture is in motion. And it happens like very suddenly, and not usually for a very long time, but it's just like a hurricane of motion. And there were a couple instances of that here, but there are usually more in a Miyazaki film. But, so whenever that happens, it just is amazing to me. And also, what I found different from a Miyazaki film is that there were limited amounts of moments of wonder. Again, kind of hard to describe. It's more of an internal feeling more than anything. But it seems like in a Miyazaki film, and now as I listen to myself, I hate comparing, but again, this is my first Studio Ghibli film that's not Miyazaki. There's just a sense of wonder that the character is experiencing, that they are seeing something for the first time, they are having a revelation, and that is instantly conveyed to the viewer, usually just through animation, through the movement of a cartoon. And there were limited moments of wonder in this film. And that's probably due to the story. The story focuses on really one character, two characters, kind of. And it seems like all of the rest of the characters are kind of just there. They serve a purpose. They're kind of caricatures, and they, basically kind of one or two note. But the main character is fully fleshed out. We're with her most of the time, and then we're with her human friend. I don't know if the borrowers are human, but a normal-sized human who was sick. The film is about a Miyazaki film, and this isn't a Miyazaki film, but a Miyazaki film always features someone moving, someone is moving. So a boy who is sick is moving to live with his grandma, I believe, to have, the best care. Who takes care of you better than grandma? So he's very sick, and he's moving to grandma's house. And when he moves into the new house, he discovers, I think, like on the very first day, little tiny people who borrow things to live. And that's, pretty much it. For a while, no one believes him, but yet everyone's heard about it. Then, one character wants to exterminate them, which I never really understood. Why would, you discover tiny, humans that only exist rarely in the world and then want to kill them immediately? That just didn't make much sense to me. But I suppose that was in the book, but it was, again, this is an adaptation of a book, and whenever you do that, you lose some of the detail, and some of the, finer character points. Gosh, there was actually something I wanted to say. There was one character who is incredibly interesting. He's like a warrior type character, and he doesn't have much to do at all. He seems so interesting, but he doesn't do anything, and we're never allowed to see him, do anything. And maybe there's going to be a sequel, and because again, I believe it's a series of books, so perhaps we will continue our story, and he will be prominently featured in the sequel. Something I did love is that, this gives Ghibli an opportunity to, usually, or Miyazaki, to give him an opportunity to play with the real world. Usually, he creates this entirely detailed and realistic realm of imagination. Here, it's Earth. It's our reality, except that there are tiny people. So we get to see the world from the perspective of the tiny people, and it lets him take our natural world, bugs, cats, birds, and make them into these, in some cases, monsters, in some cases, like friendly giants. And I just think that's really cool, is now we get to see a little take with that same feel on the natural world. So I thought that was cool. There is a scene in here that almost directly mirrors arguably his most famous film, My Neighbor Totoro. So it's like a shout out, to his boss, really, the filmmaker. But I mean, seriously, scratching the nose of a giant cat in the same way that, the girl scratched Totoro's nose. And they even had the same reaction. So I appreciated that little shout out to one of the great films of all time. But I just thought about, because again, this is engineered for kids, I'd think. And a kid, of course, is going to love it. He's going to be spellbound by the motion and color. An adult would probably get pretty tired of this after a couple viewings. There's not a lot there, to go too deep. So it's not, super suited for repeat viewings, where I think, My Neighbor Totoro could be watched endlessly. Not so with the case here. I will probably see it again, on the big screen. I, usually can't resist. One, because Disney handles all of the Ghibli films with such care and respect. So I will probably see it again, and perhaps that will make me raise my 6 to maybe a 7. I'm not sure. But the experience I had with The Borrowers at home, with a bootleg DVD, is a 6, and I think that's fair. So thanks for watching. Later.